I watched the sunrise this morning, a wonderful sort of surreal golden glow rising from the east, and I thought, yes, at last, some decent weather. I can get outside and get that how to look after your chrome on your motorcycle video filmed. Maybe if there's time, even start recording the sound check video for the bullet exhaust. And then an hour later, it was like this. Torrential rain and black clouds as far as the eye can see. Now, I'm not going to complain because rain is a good thing, but it did mean that I had to change my plans for this week. And what I've decided to do is something that I've been thinking of doing, to be honest, for 2 or 3 years. 2 videos actually, but I've just kept putting them on a back burner because it always seemed like there was something else more relevant to do. Now, I think these 2 subjects are a sort of rite of passage for any YouTube motorcycle channel. So thinking about it, I'm a bit late to the game. 5 reasons why you should ride a motorcycle, and another video, 5 things that I hate about motorcycling. But today we're going to start off with a positive video, the top 5 good reasons why you should ride a motorcycle. Now, first of all, motorcycling has certain health benefits. I suppose deep down inside I was sort of aware of this, but it would have been just my opinion. It's not like I could really back it up with anything. But during the pandemic, when the big question came up as to whether riding a motorcycle constituted exercise under the lockdown regulations, a few viewers came forward with some facts and figures, and that prompted me to look into it. Now, the reason I've placed this as number 5, even though obviously it's a very important thing, is that I think some of the claims made are perhaps a little bit overstated. But I am convinced that there is some truth behind the claims made. Now, if you just Google what are the health benefits of riding a motorcycle, you'll get hundreds of results. What I've done is I've taken these examples from a Casbo publication simply because I found them the most concise and easiest to follow. But most motorcycle organisations and magazines have published something very similar in the last 6 months or so. Now, I'm going to quote from Casbo's publication directly. Starting with number 1, motorcycling provides you with healthier, stronger knees and thighs. It goes on to say that orthopaedic surgeons have noted that motorcycle riders have fewer knee problems because riding a bike strengthens key muscles used to hold the patella, that's the knobbly bit on your knees, and other bones in the knee in place. Number 2, improved core strength. Now, when they refer to core strength, they're referring to your core muscles, your stomach muscles. Now, these are arguably the most important muscles in your body because whatever you're doing, whether you're walking, lifting, carrying, picking your nose, your abdominal muscles are responsible for providing a stable platform to enable you to be able to do those things. Now, our stomach muscles are an area of our bodies that have suffered greatly due to our modern lifestyles. I was once told that something like 95% of back problems are attributed to poor core strength, a statistic that's risen hugely in the last 50 or 60 years. And the article says that all of the activities involved in steering a bike, moving it at low speeds, etc., serve to strengthen muscles in the abdomen. Now, point number 3 in this article indicates that it increases insulin sensitivity. I'm not 100% sure about this one, but I'll go with it. Motorcycle riding is a low impact exercise, so riders have improved insulin sensitivity for up to 8 hours after a ride, which in turn promotes weight loss. I have to admit, I know absolutely nothing about that. Maybe someone that's watching can come forward and explain it to me. Now, the next 2 sections, to my mind, relate to naked bikes, not to fully faired sports bikes or tourers, because to a large extent, in both cases, the rider is protected from the wind. But for you naked bike riders, actually that sounded better in my head than it did when I said it out loud. I'm sure you know what I mean. Riding at speed and being exposed to wind pressure is considered a type of resistance exercise. Dr. Dr. Pamela Riley, a naturopathic doctor, I'm not quite sure what one of those are, says that riding a motorcycle burns calories. Riley says that riders can count on burning 600 calories per hour compared to 200 or 300 the rest of us do. I'm not entirely convinced by that one, but she is a doctor, so who am I to argue? Next up on this little list is improved neck strength. If you wear a helmet and your bike has the correct handlebars, seat and foot pegs, whatever those are, riding can be as beneficial as a chiropractor visit. Riley found that strengthening her own neck muscles in this way served to pull her neck vertebrae back into alignment and back into the proper curvature. The key to this is to get the adjustment correct. Riding with a poor fit can lead to back pain, but there's no details as to what a good fit is. Now, joking aside, I do agree with this. When I first came off the BMW GS's with the big tall screen that takes all wind pressure away from your body and started riding naked bikes, I found the wind pressure at times intolerable. There were times when even I considered fitting a larger screen to my Bonneville. But as time marched on, I found that I quite simply didn't notice it anymore. 70 miles an hour on a motorway these days, I don't give it a second thought. Whereas there was a time when, anything approaching 60 miles an hour I found quite uncomfortable. And I do get stories of these kind of problems coming from viewers all the time, that they can't stand the wind pressure. And can I recommend a good quality tall screen for one of the Bonnevilles or the Interceptor or whatever? And I think the answer to that question really is no, don't go down that route, just persevere. It will be good for you in the long run. Right, this has taken up a huge part of this video. I'm sorry about that, but it wasn't something you could just skimp over. Motorcycling is physically good for you, but I should point out that it doesn't provide you with any cardiovascular exercise, which is ultra important, so don't consider biking being your only exercise regime. Moving on to reason number 4, why you should ride a motorcycle. Right, we're still talking about health here, but this time mental health. We ride motorcycles because we enjoy motorcycles, and doing something that we enjoy causes our brain to release certain chemicals. Dopamine, serotonin, endorphins. Now, in the right proportions, these chemicals can promote physical health. They help to make us more active, which in turn helps our bodies in other ways. But mental health in our modern lives is becoming more of a concern now than it's ever been. It has been confirmed in some studies that by and large the mental outlook of motorcyclists, that is the general mental health, is noticeably better than that of car drivers. And once again, I can identify with this. There are times when you're driving a car that you feel physically trapped. You can't just get up and walk away from it when you're frustrated by poor traffic conditions. There's no sense of freedom with a car, especially not these days on our congested roads. Motorcycling is a much more primitive sensation. I've always thought it's the closest feeling you can get to flying without actually flying. A bike is more like an animal in the way it transports you. It leans into corners. You can feel that wind on your face, and this taps into a visceral part of our brains. Something that I feel our brains identify with more. A sort of a natural feedback, a natural reassurance. Something that you're completely isolated from in a car. So what's next? The third reason as to why you should ride a motorcycle. Reason number 3. Speed. Generally speaking, a motorcycle will get you to your destination faster than a car. Now, don't misunderstand my meaning here. Just because your bike can travel at 130 or 140 miles an hour, I'm not advocating that that's what you do. That's not what I mean. A motorcycle is a smaller and much more agile vehicle than a car. which means that it can advance through traffic far more quickly than a car can. And when I say this, I mean whilst being ridden responsibly. Even a small motorcycle can accelerate past slow-moving traffic safely and with ease. And when it comes to filtering in heavy standstill traffic, the motorcycle is king. And again, I must emphasise that is filtering responsibly. And that brings us conveniently to reason number 2 as to why you should ride a motorcycle. When you reach your destination, you need to park up somewhere. This has been a headache with a motor car for as long as I can remember, and it's worse now than it's ever been. It's not unusual when I do use my car to arrive at a destination and spend 10 or 20 minutes just trying to find an available place to park. And then when you finally do find somewhere to park, more often than not, there's a parking fee to contend with, and these are getting extortionate. A motorcycle is a different animal though. It's much smaller, as we've already mentioned. And the fantastic thing about motorcycles is you can park them just about anywhere. And then it gets even better, because I know certainly here in the UK, and I'm presuming it's similar elsewhere in the world, when you do park up, motorcycles don't have to pay for parking. Except in Helmsley, of course, which is why I never visit Helmsley. I had a conversation with an acquaintance a few months ago who, he doesn't ride a bike, but the place that he works at does have motorcycle parking. He works in the Hull city centre, and because he uses a car, he has to park in one of the public car parks, and it costs him £6 per day. That's £120 per month just to go to work and park your car, and that's before you've even considered paying for petrol and insurance, etc. Now, just to put that into perspective, that £120 per month parking fee would pay for a bike. Wherever I've visited over the years, in almost 40 years, I can say hand on heart, I've never arrived at my destination on a motorcycle and struggled to find a place to park. I just can't remember it ever happening. And that brings us to my final reason number 1, why you should ride a motorcycle. Now, 15 years ago, this particular reason would never have even made it onto my list. And the blame for that, I think, really is the motorcycle industry itself, because all bikes were tuned from the factory for performance you couldn't use, and to the detriment of economy. Because most of the motorcycles that I've owned over the years, even mid-range bikes, 500, 600, 700 cc's, were only capable of doing something like 45 to 55 miles to the gallon at best. That is imperial gallons, by the way. So the argument that motorcycles can alleviate some of the world's environmental problems, pollution, congestion in inner cities, problems with parking in inner cities, never really stacked up. You know, the argument just wouldn't hold water, with most mid-range and larger capacity motorcycles returning about the same miles to the gallon as your average family car that could carry potentially 5 people. But legislation is starting to change all that. Even the Bonneville can now just manage about 70 miles to the gallon if you treat it nicely. The Interceptor can do round about 80 miles to the gallon. And the humble Bullet 500, no matter what you do to it, seems to give you a healthy 90 plus miles to the gallon, which I think now has made this argument more relevant than it's ever been before. Here in the UK, the government has always ostracised motorcyclists. We have to jump through hoops that car drivers don't have to jump through just to get through our tests. The result being that there are fewer motorcyclists on the road because it's too expensive to pass your test and it's too much hassle. And unlike it used to be in the old days, you can't ride on L plates on a motorcycle for more than a couple of years without passing your test. In short, successive governments have legislated motorcycles off the road, whilst ignoring the fact that motorcycles do potentially have the power, if not to save the planet, to certainly alleviate some of the planet's problems. Now, certain classes of motor car don't have to pay vehicle road tax because they're considered environmentally friendly. Yet even the rider of the humble 49cc moped in this country still has to pay £21 road tax a year. Now, for a motorcycle over 125cc's, I'm not quite sure what it is now, it's £85 or £90 a year. And to me, none of this makes sense. The government should be encouraging small to medium capacity motorcycles to be on the road for the following reasons. They consume less resources at the stage of manufacture. They're about a third or the quarter the size of even a small motor car, so yes, it stands to reason they're going to consume far less energy and resources to build. Sensible and economical motorcycles are going to consume less fuel, which equals less strain on the environment through the acquisition and refining of that fuel, and less strain on the environment through pollution burning that fuel. But it doesn't stop there. Brake and tyre wear pollution is becoming a bit of a thing recently. A motorcycle has a much smaller footprint than a motor car, so the amount of tyre and brake pollution is going to be minimised. Let's keep going. If everyone was riding a motorcycle, traffic congestion at peak times on the road again would be minimised. There's less tonnage using the roads. Motorcycles take up less space on the roads, so congestion would be eased. And then, as I've already discussed, when it comes to parking in inner cities, just about everyone is going to be able to be accommodated because motorcycles are small. You can park them anywhere. Bikes are potentially, at the moment, the most economical and environmentally friendly mode of personal motorised transport in existence, yet the world isn't using them to the full potential, especially not here in the UK. And by riding a motorcycle to work, especially a sensible motorcycle, you're unwittingly, despite the government's best efforts, actually helping the planet and everyone around you. Now, what this usually comes down to, and I've had it thrown at me so many times, is a motorcycle, generally speaking, can only carry a maximum of 2 people, whereas a car can carry up to 5 people. Some cars can carry more. And the government's justification in the past has been that they won't promote motorcycles as personal transport because cars are capable of carrying more people, and so if they're used to full capacity, they're more economical than even a small motorcycle. And a decade or so back, I remember the government trying to encourage people to car share on the way to work. Several work colleagues taking it in turns to share one car in order to help the environment and ease congestion. It didn't work. People are too selfish. They don't want the hassle of picking work colleagues up or waiting for a colleague to pick them up. And that idea gradually descended into the government's book of worst thought out ideas. And to take that just one step further to prove a point, I live on a main road, one of the main routes to work into Hull for most of the East Coast villages around me. And this morning I thought I would do a little experiment just to see how many people are in cars that pass my house. Now, it's by no means an empirical experiment or an exhaustive test, it was just something to give an indication. The first 10 cars that passed my house in either direction, I made a note of how many people were on board. 7 of those 10 cars only had 1 occupant, the driver, and 3 of those cars had 2 occupants, the driver and 1 passenger. And just for clarification, I didn't count any vans or goods vehicles. But I think anyone who travels on Her Majesty the Queen's highways on a regular basis already knew that. So there you have it, my top 5 reasons as to why you should ride a motorcycle. Once again, thank you so much for watching this video. I really do appreciate the time that people put aside every week to listen to me drone on. I hope you've enjoyed this video, maybe even found it insightful. If you have, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel, and don't forget, if you do subscribe, don't forget to hit the notification bell so that you can be informed whenever I upload a new video. And subscribing to the channel is totally free, it doesn't cost you a penny. I'm waiting to see what the weather does so that I can decide what I'm going to do for Friday, but either way I will be back on Friday, so until then, please ride safely, and I'll see you soon.